Good morning, my early risers, and welcome to a special edition of On the Lake with Jake. It's about 6:30 in the morning on June 20th, 2020, and we're coming to you from just outside Spirit Knob or Spirit Island in Wayzata. Today is the summer solstice, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means and why I'm out here besides this tiny little island. I remember summers as a child. The days never seemed to end, and the nights were a blur until I could get up and start all over again. Summers were a major part of my life back then, and as a teacher, that hasn't changed one bit. First off, for the Northern Hemisphere, the June solstice is your signal to celebrate summer if you haven't started already. The mornings will come early, and the sun will hang on until late in the evening. The word solstice comes from the Latin sol, for sun, and sistare, which means to stand still, as the sun can appear to stand still for a few days as its path transitions from north to south. The change of the seasons and the movement of the sun across the sky to mark those seasons was not a mystery for people long ago. In fact, it was undoubtedly more known to them than it is to any of us today. In England, they built Stonehenge to mark the solstice and the equinox. In Chichén Itzá, the Maya built a pyramid that casts a shadow of a serpent during the fall and spring equinox. The Karnak in Egypt lights up perfectly during the summer solstice. And the Puebloan people carved beautiful features to track the passage of time with the sun dagger of Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, one of the most magnificent sights during the winter and summer solstice. The sky was the reality show of our ancestors. They made up characters to represent the collection of stars or constellations. They tracked their movements and created stories to convey that information to the next generation. It is within these stories from the past that we can better understand our present. Today we are at Spirit Knob because it was believed by the Dakota people that this was the most important place on Lake Minnetonka. The Great Manitou's energy was gathered here, and it was the primary place of worship for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Until the late 1870s, a stone altar rested on top of the knob, and Dakota warriors would worship and make offerings before and after major events. As settlers began to Columbus the land, Indian digs became popular. The site was excavated, and the extreme damage led to the eventual and complete erosion. Today there is nothing left of the knob, but nothing can erode its memory if you can remember. As our sun slowly begins its trek back to shorter days and longer nights, let's all be thankful for the time we have. Let's all enjoy these long days and do our best to make our lives a story worth living. Thanks again for your appreciation, and as always, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers. If you enjoyed that video, smash the like button. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and check out more videos below. Good morning, my little seedlings, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and I am coming to you from the beautiful Big Island right in the middle of Lake Minnetonka. My purpose today is to highlight and promote one of my favorite summertime snacks, the mulberry. Most mulberry trees we find are the non-native white mulberry, or Morus alba. But Minnesota does have a native species, named the Morus rubra, or the red mulberry. However, very few red mulberry trees exist anymore due to the rapid hybridization with other species. But they are closely monitored by the state and other local organizations. The white mulberry tree originated in China and is the favorite food of silkworms. So in an effort to establish a silk industry here in North America, plants were transported, planted, and propagated like crazy.
I did not realize that. Yeah. Russell, did you realize that?
No, I did not realize that.
The color of the fruit does not determine the species. The berries' colors range from white to pink to red, with ripened berries looking a deep purple, almost black color. This is true for both the red and white varieties. The leaves of the white mulberry tree are all over the place. Some are lobed, resembling an oak. Some are oblonged and pointed like an ash. But the leaves also have a nice set of teeth running along the edge. The top is smooth and shiny, and the lower surface is a lighter color and a little hairy. Leaves of the red mulberry tree are mostly rounded and likely don't have as many lobes as the white mulberry. The upper side is also significantly rougher, a clear difference between the two species. The trunk is harder to identify, at least for me. It has shallow ridges with slightly orange or reddish hues underlying. Honestly, I look for them around mid-June to mid-July while they're fruiting, and then I remember where they are for next year. This tree is an abundance of food energy for all manner of birds, critters, insects, and even people. The berries are excellent for jellies and jams, juices and wines, or straight off the tree. You can even utilize the leaves, the larger for cooking, baking, and food storage, and the young ones can be eaten raw or used in tea. It truly is a wonderful work of nature. In my hometown of Excelsior, several of the mulberry trees have been removed in recent years. It's a pity, because it's such a great, natural, free food source. But like my grandpa always said, to each their own, even if what the each's own is stupid and short-sighted. It's never easy when people make decisions you don't agree with. You can whine, you can complain, you can even fight about it. Or you can take action to inform, educate, and maybe you'll learn something too. I know I have.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Remember to get outside this week. Find a mulberry tree and get those hands messy while binging on one of nature's finest treats. Thanks again, my little seedlings. As always, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers. If you enjoyed that video, smash the like button. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and check out more videos below. Hello, my little berry pickers, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and today I have ventured a bit off the water to provide you an excellent example of another delicious summertime fruit. This morning I am sitting inside Rosie's garden, right outside my 6th grade classroom. This is a great place for our students to unwind, relax, read, or maybe just observe nature. The fruit I am highlighting today is the raspberry, and every year around the 4th of July, it is abundant in Rosie's garden. The raspberry is in the genus Rubus, and there are dozens of varieties grown and cultivated throughout the world. The scientific name for our typical raspberry is Rubus idaeus, which can be compared to the scientific name for our red mulberry, Morus rubra. And we should notice the common wording that highlights the major features of both these fruits, their color. Rubus and rubra both derive from the Latin rubere, meaning red. And not coincidentally, the gemstone, the ruby, is the birthstone for the month of July, the same month that mulberries and raspberries are ripe for the picking. My favorite method for identification is to notice the fruits in the summer and then remember that place for the following year.
60% of the time, it works every time.
But if you want to spot a few of them early spring, here are some easy tips. The stems of the plants, or canes, are thorny with a silverish green coloring. The leaves are spade-shaped, light green tops with silver green bottoms, and they all have large teeth. The buds of the raspberry begin developing early to mid-June and come out just in time for the 4th of July in most cases. You can still find some random raspberry patches along trails and off the highways and byways, but many are being removed because they're prickly and become a nuisance if they're left untended. Even something as wonderful as the raspberry can be considered a detriment if it isn't cultivated and cared for correctly. Think about the things in your life that could be improved with a little more time and energy focused on care and cultivation. Maybe it's a skill you're working on, maybe it's a relationship or a behavior that you're trying to change. We all need a little care and cultivation from time to time, even our raspberry friends. Thanks again for joining me on my little adventures, friends. I appreciate the time you give me. Remember, as always, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers. If you enjoyed that video, smash the like button. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and check out more videos below. Good morning, my little lunatics, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and today I am out in the middle of Lake Minnetonka to discuss Minnesota's state bird, the Common Loon. The Common Loon it may be called, but there is nothing common about this magnificent animal. The loon is a diver and catches all of its food swimming underwater. These deep divers have been recorded at depths of over 180 feet or 55 meters. At those depths, there's an incredible 90 pounds of pressure being exerted on every inch of your body. And unless you're a professional, your lungs will likely explode. You'd be better off getting stepped on by an overweight elephant. Their dives typically last about a minute, but have been clocked in at well over 15 minutes as well. The loon's physical makeup is key to their incredible skills. Their legs are positioned further back on their body for more explosive swimming power. And unlike most birds, many of their bones are solid, helping them reach those amazing depths. These traits, however, make it plenty challenging to fly and walk on land. As a result, they stick to the water as much as they can, only going ashore to nest and only flying when absolutely necessary. I can understand that. These well-dressed water birds are found throughout North America, breeding in the north and wintering in the south and along the coasts. Its scientific name is Gavia immer and is classified in a family of diver birds significantly different from other floating birds like ducks, geese, and swans. The genus Gavia comes from the Latin for seabird, and the species immer may derive from the Latin emergo, roughly meaning to submerge. A more fitting handle for this near fish-like bird I can't think of. The name loon possibly comes from the Old English luma, meaning lummox or clumsy. It's also possible that the name is derived from Old Norse, meaning lomar, meaning to lament. This would likely be in reference to the loon's sorrowful call.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want.
No, not that type of call. Yeah, that's more like it. However, it does not share similarities with words like lunar, lunatic, or loony, aside from basic phonetics, meaning they sound the same, but are unrelated otherwise. Speaking of sound, loons were unseen and unheard of in our neck of the woods when I was a child. They're the state bird, and you practically had to drive to Canada to see one. But strong, common sense environmental regulations were put in place, and years later, we have witnessed a resurgence of top avian predators like the common loon, the Cooper's hawk, and the American bald eagle. Without rules against the use of certain types of chemicals that are harmful in excess, like mercury, arsenic, and cadmium, or other pollutants that can poison the atmosphere, like DDT, CFCs, and MBAs, this vital aspect of our food chain would not be living around our fair shores. It may not be living anywhere at all had it not been for these forward-thinking social and business practices that preserve our habitat for future generations. I, for one, am glad that my daughter won't need to drive 8 hours to see the beauty of a loon, and won't need to learn about our nation's symbol, the bald eagle, in a history book. Our environment is fragile and precious, but we still have time to make things right and protect the many vital resources in our world. Thanks again for listening to me talk. I know your time is valuable and you'd probably rather be outside. So remember, as always, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers. If you enjoyed that video, smash the like button. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and check out more videos below. Good morning, champions, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and I am cruising around the Cold-Baltish Lake Minnetonka to show you some of my favorite modern landmarks, the Water Tower. When I was younger, I would often use these prominent features to orientate and navigate the multitude of lakes and bays that make up the Lake Minnetonka chain. Water towers serve many purposes, but their main role is to provide an elevated structure that pressurizes and distributes drinkable water for a community. Reliable access to clean water is a major factor in the progress of civilization and the continued health and well-being of its citizens. Water tower technology was developed in the mid-19th century, and the water tower at Friedrichsplatz in Mannheim, Germany built in 1886, is an excellent example of its beautiful architecture and its communal nature. Today, their purpose remains the same. They help collect and distribute water to homes and businesses. They aid firefighters by providing a continuous flow of pressurized water to better extinguish fires. They may also proclaim the name of your town or community. Maybe they even show off a little style or local flavor, such as in Pequot Lakes and Paul Bunyan's Bobber. My favorite tower growing up was in Spring Park. While most towers tout the name of the city, Spring Park just had a smiley face. The people in the town voted on it in the 70s, and it stuck around until the town planned on repainting the tower and replacing it with a simple Spring Park logo. People went nuts! Strongly worded emails were sent, petitions were created, signed, and filed. In the end, they compromised, and the smiley face lives on to spread joy to all who see it. Probably the most photogenic of our water towers resides in Minnetonka Beach. It has been in continuous use since the 140-foot structure was built in 1928. Recently, residents have begun looking into listing the metallic, old-timey tower on the National Register of Historic Places. The final water tower I want to bring to your attention also resides in Spring Park. But although you've probably seen it, you never knew what its true purpose was. Mound Metalcraft, later Tonka Toys, operated within the large industrial building in Spring Park. They needed reliable and steady access to water and decided to build a water tower. At the same time, they also did not want to mar the picturesque views of the lake. So instead of a traditional water tower, they built one inside of a large, 7-story tall tower that still dominates the skyline to this day. Water towers are great. They stick their heads up high for us all to see. They proudly proclaim where they are and where they're from. They also provide us with the most important ingredient to life, clean water. Access to clean drinkable water is something that I take for granted daily. The Mayo Clinic says that in order to properly maintain normal body functions, we need about 3 liters of water a day, give or take. The CDC states that 790 million people, or 11% of the world's population, do not have ready access to clean drinking water or proper sanitation. I let enough drinking water run out while warming up the shower to last someone for days, maybe even weeks. Regardless of its form, water is a precious commodity, so enjoy it responsibly. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. Let me know in the comments if there's any topic you think I should cover. As always, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers. If you enjoyed that video, smash the like button. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and check out more videos below. Good morning, champions, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and I am cruising around Lake Minnetonka looking for some of the most powerful and precious features of the Minnesota landscape, the Indigenous burial mound. Before I begin, I gotta be honest and tell you that I am not an expert on this topic. Frankly, I'm not an expert on any of these topics. Take everything that I say with a grain of salt, and make sure you do your own research. Links will be included in the description below. Long before the Ojibwa and Dakota peoples roamed this land, earlier societies existed. The Woodland and Hopewell eras stretched back over 3,000 years, with individual tribes and peoples connected by trade routes and some shared or similar cultural practices. Information on these groups is limited, but what we do know is that they were prodigious mound builders. Mounds were built for several reasons, including religious, ceremonial, burial, and even residential. Upon seeing these massive earthen structures, early settlers couldn't conceive that these mounds had been built by the ancestors of the very people they were attempting to extinguish. Many created stories about races of giants or lost Middle Eastern or European tribes in order to explain their existence. The Lake Minnetonka area has been a magnet for communities and cultures since the glaciers packed up and moved north. Our area is full of linguistic clues to that past. Minnetonka, Minnetrista, and Wayzata are all versions of Dakota words. But our land used to be rife with the physical evidence as well.
No way!
Yes way.
There are currently 11 3,000 prehistoric and early historic indigenous earthworks and burial mounds cataloged in Minnesota. But there were thousands more that were destroyed through plowing, road construction, and vandalism.
Bogus. Heinous. Most non-triumphant.
This includes one of the most impressive burial sites on Lake Minnetonka, the Malmston Mound Group, formerly located along the high bluffs on Lake Minnetonka's westernmost waterway, Halstead's Bay, in Mound, Minnesota. The area was first mapped in 1883 by Theodore Lewis, when he recorded 69 mounds of various shape and size. In 1947, archaeologist Lloyd Wilford of the University of Minnesota excavated mounds numbers 59 and 66 on the eastern end, noting that almost all mounds to the west were no longer visible. The same is true for other large groups of burial mounds that were located along Bartlett Avenue and Cooks and Phelps Bay. In the 1880s, there were 524 mounds were mapped at 48 different sites around Lake Minnetonka. Only a fraction of them remain today. Tourist brochures at the time actually encouraged visitors to check out the sites and see what they could find. And the great Peter Gideon, namesake of Gideon's Bay and of wealthy apple fame, was an avid amateur archaeologist, taking friends and family to plunder the ancient sites along his property. Until one day, after one such desecration, he became violently ill. A fever dream took him to a dark place, gripping him for almost a week. And in that dream, he saw the face of the man whose sacred place he had disrupted. When he came to, he returned the artifacts and swore to never destroy another grave again.
Excellent!
When I was a kid, my brother and I didn't play cowboys and Indians. We played Indian and Indian. We built teepees, we made bow and arrows, and set traps. Our high school mascot was the Mound Mohawks. And when the school opted to change the mascot to the moderately charged Whitehawks in the late 90s, I was upset. I didn't want to be a Whitehawk. I wanted to be a Mohawk. I didn't see the point, and I heard and regurgitated arguments against that change. It's non-offensive. It's honorific. And the classic, well, what do I feel? A few years later, I realized that what may have given me a little bit of false pride was undoubtedly hurting the actual pride of so many more. My few years of wanting to be a Mohawk didn't overshadow the generations of people that actually are and were Mohawks. My youthful stance didn't come from a place of hate or malice, but of ignorance. I didn't even know what I didn't know. My transition to this understanding didn't happen overnight, and it continues to this day. But that doesn't mean that society needed to wait for me to come around. Sometimes the world moves on, and it's you that needs to catch up. And as things seem to be happening faster and faster and faster, some of us will struggle to keep pace. I urge patience with those people. We were all ignorant about something at some point, so we should all have some understanding. There is no question that the ancient indigenous mounds along the lakes and rivers of Minnesota, where for thousands of years people have buried their dead, are among the most endangered, most beautiful, and most culturally important places in Minnesota today. Today, I share these stories, not because it's my history, but because my story intersects with these histories, and they cannot help but become a part of my story as well. I appreciate your presence, and hopefully you are working to make your presence even greater. So remember, friends, be happy, stay healthy, and let's preserve some history. Cheers.
It's you. Yeah. It's us. Who are we?
Can see for miles.
something. What should I say? Make something up. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
Good one, dude.
Well, gotta get back to our report. Yeah, we take you with us, but it's a history report, not a future report. Later. Let's get back and do our report. Good idea.
Good morning, friends, and welcome back to another edition of On the Lake with Jake. My name is Jacob Westman, and today I am highlighting another beautiful and abundant outdoor edible, the wild grape. The wild grape, riverbank grape, or frost grape as they can be called, has a scientific name of Vitis riparia. Vitis is Latin for vine, and riparia comes from the Latin ripa, or bank, or shore. You may have heard terms like riparian zone referring to the area along the shoreline, or rocks and structure placed along the shore to lessen erosion and wave damage, called riprap. They all carry that same Latin root. The wild grape is indigenous to North America, and when Vikings described the lands to the far west, they called it Vinland due to the propensity of the wild vine. The wild grape grows along the eastern coast from Quebec to Alabama, and throughout the north central from Nebraska to Montana to Manitoba. It thrives along lakes and riverbanks, fence lines, and railroads, and is an important food source and cover for birds, insects, and other small creatures. This climbing vine will creep to the top of nearby trees, soon overtaking the tree's canopy. Sometimes the vine becomes so thick and heavy it can crush the tree under its weight, bringing it to the ground before it finds another tree to climb. The leaves are broad and coarsely toothed. They are light green and edible when young, and become darker and more bitter when mature. The fruit is a deep purple, forming small to large clusters from August to September. The fruit is small and the seeds are large, much larger than any commercial grape. The fruit is eaten by birds, insects, and other critters. The Ojibwe would harvest the grape after the first frost and turn them into jelly for use throughout the winter. Vitis riparia does not possess any real commercial value on its own, but its cold hardiness and resistance to certain fungi have made its genes valuable when breeding with domesticated commercial grapes. The University of Minnesota horticulture program, established by the late Peter Gideon, has been developing commercially viable wine grapes using Vitis riparia's genetic cold hardiness to develop a wine industry in the Great White North. The U of M currently has 12,000 experimental vines on 12 acres, as well as many established varieties, including the Frontenac, Itasca, La Crescent, and Marquette. Nearby Waconia is home to 3 wineries and vineyards: Parley Lake, Sovereign Estate, and Schramm. Normally, at the conclusion of my videos, I try to come up with something clever, something supposedly wise, something about adapting to your surroundings or better utilizing the abundant resources around you, something that connects our increasingly busy lives with the naturally measured changes that the seasons bring. But I don't feel like it.
It died on the vine.
It died on the vine.
It died on the vine.
Summer is almost over and school is about to begin. Not a normal school year, but one like we have never seen before. I've been teaching for over a decade, but there are so many unknowns that it makes me a little more anxious than usual. However, I know that I can make the best of it. I know that I can give my new batch of kids an enjoyable and valuable experience. It won't be the same, but that doesn't mean it still can't be great. Thanks again for your time, and always remember, friends, be happy, stay healthy, and let's make some history. Cheers.